Hello viewers, welcome to the lecture series on financial management. Today in this lecture, we shall cover the topic dividend policy. Under dividend policy, we are going to discuss the meaning of dividend, then the meaning of dividend policy, for whom dividend policy is to be taken into consideration, then various factors affecting the dividend policy, various types of dividends, and we shall learn in detail the theory of relevance and theory of irrelevance from the point of view of valuation of the firm. Now, first of all, we will understand the meaning of dividend. Dividend is that portion of the distributable profits which are being distributed to the shareholders in accordance with their shareholding in the capital. So, we can say that where the shareholder gets a part of the profit in the form of dividend, he is receiving dividends in hand. Now, what do we mean by dividend policy? Dividend policy refers to the decision relating to the payment of dividend. Under dividend policy, the management is going to take the decision whether to retain the earnings or to pay them off to the shareholders. The objective behind fixing the payout ratio and retention ratio in order to pay dividend or not is the maximization of shareholders' wealth. Because the third important decision of a financial manager is that of dividend. The first two, as we know and we have already discussed in detail, are the investment decisions and financing decision. Dividend decision is necessary to be taken so that we can assess how much the retained earnings, which is the internal source of finance, can be used to take up the investing decisions and financing decisions. Because once dividend policy is being decided, the payout ratios and retention ratios are decided, we can use the retained earnings to pay off the dividends. So, there are many types of dividends. Let us understand what are the types of dividends. As we have discussed that dividend is the part of the distributable profit which we are going to pay to the shareholders. But when we talk about shareholders, we are restricting ourselves to the equity shareholders, and that too of the widely held public company. Now, what is this widely held public company? Widely held public company means that company whose shares are with general public at large, and such public shall include individuals, body of individuals, it can be association of people, other corporates, financial institutions, and they take care of the shares of the company. They have subscribed to the shares of the company. So, the shareholding is not restricted to the minimum set of people as in the case of the closely held company, but they are being subscribed by general public at large. So, the control is scattered over here. One more thing which is very important in relation to the widely held public company is that its shares are listed on the stock exchange, and on time to time financial reports are to be presented to SEC, that is Security Exchange Board, and Securities Exchange Control Authorities. They are also governed by the SEBI guidelines. So, when we talk about the dividend, we are talking about the dividends of a widely held public company, because payment of dividend in the case of closely held company is not an issue. When we distribute the dividends, we can distribute in various types. So, now we are discussing the types of dividend. These dividends can be of cash dividend. Cash dividend is that form of dividend in which the dividend is paid either in check or by mode of the cash. So, there is a coupon attached and he can encash that coupon out there. Such type of dividend is applicable to the organizations who have adequate liquidity. If they have good liquid sources in their hands, they can go for the payment of cash dividends. Second one is called the bond dividend. When the liquid position of the company is not strong, that means they don't have enough liquid resources with them. In that case, they take the help of bond dividends and issue bonds or debentures for a repayment period of around 5 to 7 years. So they get the good amount of liquidity in the hands by paying the bond dividends. At one hand, the shareholders are also satisfied, and then they can utilize their liquid resources adequately. So another form of dividend is known as stock dividend. Stock dividend is that mode of payment of dividend where we provide stock or shares in the form of dividend. Example of such type of dividend is the bonus shares. When a company issues bonus shares, that type of dividend which is paid in the form of stock is known as the stock dividend. Now another is called the property dividend. Property dividend, when we talk about, is the dividend which is paid in kind. Here what property doesn't mean any fixed assets. It means any form of divisible asset which can be distributed in the form of dividend to the shareholders. Such type of dividends are popular in the Western countries. For example, any beverage company can distribute the dividend in the form of the wine bottles. Such type of policies are generally followed in Western countries. It's not that popular in the Indian scenarios. Next type of dividend is known as composite dividend. Under composite dividend, some portion of the dividend can be paid in cash and some portion of the dividend can be paid in kind, depending upon the policy so framed, and the decision is taken on the basis of the liquidity position of the company and taking into consideration other parameters. Next dividend is called the optional dividend. Under optional dividend, the shareholders are being given an option either to take cash dividend or property dividend. So he can exercise his option to adopt any of the dividend either in cash or in kind. Next one will be special dividend, where the management finds that payment of dividend is going to enhance the shareholders' wealth. They can at any point of time issue a special dividend to promote the company's profitability. Next is interim dividend. Generally, the dividends are being paid at the end of the year, but where the firm has adequate profits, they can declare the dividend at any time before the end of the financial year. So such dividends which are being declared in the middle of the year or any time during the year are known as interim dividend, provided the company has adequate funds to pay off such dividends. Next is known as final dividends. They are also known as regular dividends, which a company is going to pay to the shareholders at the end of the year. So these are the list of the types of dividend which a company can pay, taking into consideration its adequacy of the profits and adequacy of the liquid resources. A newly established company should go for that type of dividend where he can channelize his cash and can also enhance the shareholders' wealth. Let us understand certain factors which are going to affect the dividend policy. So our next topic of discussion is factors affecting dividend policy. The first one is known as cost of capital. Cost of capital is the expectation of the shareholders from the company, and it is represented by the symbol called KE. It is the cost which a company needs to incur to use the funds in the form of equity share. Cost of capital is the minimum required rate of return which a company should fetch from the investment which a investor has put into the organization. So we can say that it's the minimum required rate of return, and it should be higher than internal rate of return. That means productivity index of rate of return, that means R should be always greater than KE. So it's an index to find out how the company is being working, that it's able to work up to the cost of capital, and the profitability of the company can be worked out by working on the return on investment ratio, and we can compute the KE. KE plays a very important role in the factors which are going to affect the dividend policy, because there are certain models like Walters model, Gordon model, in which the KE is going to play an important role to find out the theoretical cost or the theoretical value of the price of the share of company. Next one is retained earnings. Retained earnings are of vital importance when we find out the dividend policy, because the decision of paying the dividend is primarily based on the retained earnings. If there are adequate retained earnings, what a company should do, whether it retains 100% in the business and plow back in the another production cycle, or it can pay back this dividend or the retained earnings to the shareholders in the form of dividend. So we have to analyze the position of the retained earnings in order to take up a decision in relation to the payments of dividend to the equity shareholders. Next one is age of corporation. By age of corporation, we mean that how old the corporation is or the enterprise is. If a newly open enterprise is there, they should pay the dividends, but not at a very higher end. The rate of dividends can be low, but they should maintain the consistency in paying the dividend. So age of the corporation is also going to affect the dividend policy so framed by the management. While any old corporation can go for a higher rate of dividend provided they are stable in the payment of dividend. If at the one end they are paying higher dividend and in the coming years they are not at all able to pay the dividends, such policies are called the defective policies of paying the dividend. So a company should make out certain criteria by which they can pay the dividends in a regular basis, on a stable basis, and adequately to the shareholders, so that the wealth of the shareholders can be maximized. Now we are going to learn certain models which are very important to assess the value of the firm in relation to the dividend policy. Among them, the primary one are given by Walter and Gordon. They are of the view that the dividend policy does affect the market price of the share, while another thought of school is that dividend payment is not going to affect the market price of the share. So we have divided this theory in two parts: relevance theory and irrelevance theory. Those who profess relevant theory are James Walter and Gordon, Mehroon Gordon. They are the two authors or two philosophers of the economy, and under theoretical literature of finance we have divided these policies in two parts: relevant theory. Relevant theory means that market price is affected by payment of dividend. Here market price of share is not affected by payment of dividend. So today we are going to discuss the theory which has been given by Walter. The irrelevant theory has been suggested by Modi, Giuliani, Myler, and we will discuss about it in the separate lecture. So today we are going to concentrate on the theory given by James Walter. So let us understand what are the assumptions of this model which has been suggested by the James Walter. They have given a set of assumptions on the basis of which this model is being based, and these are that the R and K, that means rate of return, and KE, cost of capital, are constant. They are not going to be changed. Then the firm has the perpetual life. Perpetual means it cannot come to an end in the very near future. Shares are easily purchased and sold in the market. Or we can say there is a perfect market. So these are the certain assumptions on the basis of which this model is based. Now we shall learn in detail what is the model suggesting, or what's the formula being given by this model. The formula is given to assess the theoretical value of the share of the company by Walter, and it has given a formula as VC, which is known as value of the market price of the share, which is to be ascertained as D plus R upon KE bracket E minus D bracket closed. This whole is to be divided by KE. Here D means dividend per share, R means rate of return on investment, KE is cost of capital, and E is earnings per share. So using this formula, we are going to analyze whether the payment of dividend is going to affect the market price of the share or not. As this theory suggests that it does affect the market price of the share, so under different scenarios we are going to analyze this equation. That means if the rate of return is higher than KE, what shall be the impact of retaining the earnings or paying the dividends, or if it's equal to KE, what shall be the position, or if R is less than KE, what shall be the position. So taking the help of a practical example, we are going to analyze this situation where R is greater than KE, R is equal to KE, and R is less than KE. So we are starting up our calculations now. We have been given the earnings as rupees 8 per share, and our cost of capital is 10%. Now we will assume three different rates of return, one higher than the cost of capital, one lower than the cost of capital. So we will take up an example where we have been given the E, that is earnings per share, as rupees 8. We have been given the KE as 10%, Now under different scenarios we need to find out the VC, or we can say it as PO, that is price of the shares. Here if the R is 15%, that is higher than KE, if R is 10% equal to KE, and if the R is less than KE, that is 5%, we are going to find out the price of this share. Now under three different payouts we shall find out the KE. One at 25%, another at 50%, and another at 75%. So first of all we will analyze the situation where our R is 15%, that means R is greater than KE. So how much we need to retain and how much we are going to pay, we shall discuss that. So we are taking up this table where the payout ratio is 25%, is 50%, and it's 75%. So if the earnings are rupees 8 and the payout ratio is 25, that means we are going to pay 2 rupees as dividend. Payout means how much we are paying out of the earnings. So it's the 1/4 of earning, so it amounts to rupees 2. Our formula is D plus R upon KE bracket E minus D upon KE. Here D comes out to be rupees 2 plus 0.15 upon 0.10 bracket earnings are 8 rupees and dividend we have paid 2 rupees divided by 10. So solving it we will get 2 plus this is 3 by 2 when we solve it into h minus 2 is 6, 3, 9, 10, 11. 11 divided by 0.10, so it will give us the value as 110. Now we have to ascertain it at a payout of 50%. If our earnings are 8 rupees and payout is 50%, so dividend shall be 4 rupees. So inserting the values in this formula, we shall get it as 4 plus 0.15 divided by 0.10 bracket 8 minus 4 divided by 0.10. So it shall be 4 plus 3 by 2 into 4, it will be 10 divided by 0.10, so it shall be 100. Similarly for 75%, where E is 8 and D will be 6 rupees. So putting the values into this formula of D plus R upon KE bracket E minus D bracket close divided whole this by KE, we shall write the value for D as 6 rupees plus 0.15 upon 0.10, 8 minus 6 divided by 0.10. So it shall be 6 plus 3 by 2 into 2, it's 9 upon 0.10, so it shall be 90. So we can see that lesser the payout ratio, higher is the rate, and as we increases the payout, the price is going to decline. So we can say that where R is greater than KE, the retention ratio should be high, and where the retention ratio is on a higher end and payout ratio is at lower end, we are getting the market price of the share as higher. The meaning of it is that the company has better investment opportunities than shareholders to invest, and when company is going to invest in the profitable ventures, the shareholders' wealth is going to increase by such decisions. Now we will analyze the situation where R and KE are equal. So we need to find out the PE taking the same formula, and the payout ratios are also same, that is 25%, 50% and 75%. The only change is in the R. Here R is 10% in place of 15%. Now we are concentrating on 10% R. So here R shall be equal to 10%, which is equal to KE. So, under first scenario, we are going to find out E, that is 8 rupees, and D, that is 2 rupees, how it shall be worked out. So, D is 2 rupees plus 0.10 upon 0.10, E is 8 and dividend is being paid at 2 rupees, this whole divided by 0.10. So, we are getting 2 plus 1 into 6 divided by 0.10. So, it is 8 divided by 0.10 and it comes out to be 80 rupees. Similarly, at 50% payout, where E is 8 rupees and D is 4 rupees, we are going to ascertain the value, and it will be 4 plus 0.10 upon 0.10 bracket 8 minus 4 divided by 0.10. So, we will get 4 plus 4 divided by 0.10, and it shall be 8 by 0.10 is equal to 80 rupees. Similarly, at 75% payout, we are going to find out the rate. It is 6.110, 8 minus 6 and this whole divided by 0.10. So, 6 plus 2 divided by 0.10, here we are getting 8 by 0.10, so it will be 80 rupees. So, we can analyze that 80 is coming as the price in all the three cases, where the payout is 25%, then only we are getting 80 rupees. If it is 50%, even then we are getting 80 rupees, and even if it is 75%, we are getting the price as 80 rupees. So, this is a situation, or we can say it is an indifferent point, whether we are going to pay the dividend or retain the dividend. It is not going to affect the market price, because our rate of return is Now, we will analyze the third situation, where R is less than KE, and we will take the figure as 5% for R. So, 5% is less than 10%. Under this situation, we are going to analyze the price of this share. So, we will insert the values. Here D will be 2 plus 0.05 divided by 0.110, then 8 minus 2, this whole divided by 0.10. So, we will get 2 plus half of 6 divided by 0.10. So, it will be 2 plus 3 divided by 0.10, or rupees 50. Similarly, putting the values of D and E and R into the formula, we shall get it as 4 plus half into 4 divided by 0.10. So, it will be 60 rupees. So, in the last situation, where the payout is 75%, inserting the values into the formula of D is rupees 6, then R upon K is 0.05 divided by 0.10. This is to be multiplied by bracket 8 minus 6. So, solving 8 minus 6, we are getting 2, and multiplying it by 5 by 10, that is half. So, we are getting 1 plus 6 as the dividend, this whole divided by 0.10. So, rupees 70 will be the market price of the share. So, we can analyze that as the payout ratio is increasing, so is the market price of the share. From 50 it has increased to 60, and from 60 it has increased to 70. So, we can say that where the return on investment is lesser than cost of capital, the more the dividend is being paid out, the higher will be the market price of the share, meaning thereby that the investors have better investment opportunities than the shareholders. With this, we are ending up our lecture of today, where we have discussed in detail about the dividend policies, types of dividends, and the model which is based on the relevant theory of dividend, where valuation of the firm is affected by the dividend payment, and it has been suggested by James Walter. We have learned a detailed analysis, and with this we are ending up our lecture of today. Thank you.